I think it's a duty that we as humans want to make the world better for the next generation. That's our duty. I was raised that way. I had teachers that raised me to think that way, whether it's service in the military, teaching children, service through your church, that's our duty to make the world better. I genuinely believe that the arc of the moral universe is going to bend. Humans are evolving and it will bend, and it's going to bend toward injustice or justice, and it's what we do now that decides which way it bends. And my hope is that we can bend it toward justice. I think when we think about incidents of racism, it's really easy for us to conjure up these social media incidents or the Ku Klux Klan, but what we really need to do is own these systemic things that we've accepted too long. This summer, my former students reached out to me and texted and said, we got to do something, and they decided they wanted to get rid of the Confederate monuments on the Capitol building. And that seems simple, but we are one of the only states where we have a law that was passed in 2015 that protects 140 monuments and 140 state-owned places in our state. Those are images, in my mind, that are about treason, not the United States of America. It's about seceding from the United States against our Constitution, and we have laws that protect those monuments. And in my mind, those are the things we have to get rid of, that we as a state have to say that no longer will a child in North Carolina stand in the shadow of a Confederate monument. I think about how schools are funded, and I think about the inequity in how schools are funded, where veteran teachers are in schools with low poverty, the very best teachers are in schools with low poverty, and that there's no rule that the poverty numbers, the demographics of the school match the community that school is in. And that 10 miles apart, one school, 60% of the kids are in poverty, and just 10 miles away, it's 15% of the kids in poverty. And no, poverty doesn't define race, but I think that there are real associations in this region between poverty and students of color. And then you get into PTAs. I'm the PTA president at our local high school, and we have $3,000 a year in our budget. And just across the county, there are schools with $100,000 to $200,000 in their budget. And that is injustice. It's social injustice that we have those disparities and we don't fix them. The thing that gives me hope for the future is that we're having these conversations, that Spectrum News is taking this time to interview people and ask them to talk about their perspective, that we can sit in a park and talk about race and talk about hard things like grandmothers that took care of white children and did housekeeping and went home too tired to take care of their own children and their own grandchildren. And if we don't start to understand all of the stories, not just white privilege, not just the Black experience in the South, but also immigrant stories and refugee stories. If we don't understand these stories and listen and really talk, we won't change for the better. And so I'm hopeful because over and over I'm seeing us have these hard conversations.